All right, welcome. Let's think of this less like a lecture and more like a coaching session. Seriously. Together, we're going to sharpen the single most important tool you have as a reporting professional, especially when the world gets, well, a little unpredictable. Ready? Let's dive in.
So I want to kick things off with this question. Just picture it for a second. You're facing a brand new scenario, something the standards haven't caught up to yet. The textbook is silent, your bosses are looking at you. What do you fall back on? That's it. That's the whole game. This is your core competency. It's what separates a technician who just follows rules from a true professional who can navigate ambiguity. And it's exactly what we're going to master today.
So here's our roadmap for this session. First, we'll nail down what judgment really is. Then we're going to put it to the test with 3 intense, real-world case studies. From there, we'll build a framework that you can use for pretty much anything before we wrap it all up with the key lessons.
You know, professional exams, and even more so, the actual job, they aren't just about memorizing rules. They're designed to test how you think under pressure, how you deal with ambiguity, and how you apply core principles to messy problems that don't have a clean, simple answer.
So here's the crucial point. Judgment is not guessing. It's a rigorous, structured process. It's about using every bit of training and experience you have to make a decision that is reasonable, defensible, and transparent. And that last part is so important. It's okay if another expert might choose a different path, as long as you can clearly and logically defend yours.
Okay, let's open our first case file. Digital assets, like cryptocurrency, are a perfect example of financial innovation just outpacing the accounting standards. There is no specific IFRS standard for crypto. So, what do? You fall back on your judgment.
This is the fundamental question you have to grapple with. And believe me, your decision here is going to have a massive impact on the financial statements. It'll affect both the balance sheet valuation and the profit you report. So, how do you even begin to decide?
Well, you've basically got 2 main paths you can go down. If your company is actively trading crypto, buying and selling it like a commodity broker, then yeah, it looks and smells a lot like inventory. But if you're holding it for long-term value, maybe as an investment, it acts much more like an intangible asset. The key here isn't to find the one correct answer in a book. It's to look at the economic substance, the real why behind holding the asset, and then building a rock-solid case for that choice. Let's move to our next case, which brings a whole different kind of pressure. A natural disaster completely wall-ups your company's operations. Suddenly, the numbers on a spreadsheet feel secondary to just survival. But as the reporting professional, your judgment is needed now more than ever to maintain trust and confidence. Right away, you're faced with these huge judgment calls. Assessing going concern, which is basically asking, can we even stay in business, requires you to look into a very murky future. Deciding on a provision, setting aside cash for future costs, means you have to pinpoint the exact moment you became obligated to pay for cleanup or repairs. And impairment, that's not just a quick calculation, it's an honest, sometimes brutal assessment of what value has truly been lost, maybe forever. And this quote right here, it gets to the very human side of what we do. In a crisis, people, I'm talking investors, employees, your suppliers, they're all looking at the financial reports for a sign of stability, for honesty. This is where your judgment goes way beyond technical rules. It becomes about clear, transparent communication when people need it most. Okay, for our final case, we'll tackle a slower-moving, but honestly, an equally dangerous issue, high inflation. Here, the challenge is that if you just follow the old rules blindly, your reports can end up being totally misleading. This really gets to the very heart of why we do what we do. The whole goal of financial reporting is to provide useful information, right? So if inflation is eating away at the value of your currency, a profit reported at historical cost might not be a real profit at all. Your judgment is needed to decide if you have to provide extra information just to tell the true economic story. So we've looked at crypto, a major crisis, and runaway inflation. 3 totally different problems, but they all demand the exact same thing: professional judgment. Now, let's pull all that together and build a powerful, repeatable framework you can use for any challenge that comes your way. This is your toolkit. Just remember 3 words: analyze, anchor, disclose. Step 1, analyze. That means looking past the legal jargon and asking, what is the true economic reality here? Step 2, anchor. If the specific rules are vague, you anchor yourself to the core principles of the conceptual framework. Is your choice relevant? Does it faithfully represent what happened? And step 3, disclose. This one is non-negotiable. You have to clearly explain your logic. Tell the story behind the numbers. That transparency is what builds trust in the end.
All right, let's wrap this up and consolidate everything we've covered into the core principles you can take with you. When you're under pressure in an exam or on the job, come back to these points.
So let's lock this in. First, always remember, judgment is a structured process, not a random guess. Second, see new challenges, whether it's crypto or crisis, as your chance to show you really understand the first principles. Third, in a crisis, transparency is everything. It's how you build trust. And finally, always lean on your framework. These aren't just tips. These are the core competencies that take you from being a number cruncher to a genuine strategic reporting professional.
And we'll end with this. Because look, it's not a matter of if the next complex, messy scenario will land on your desk, but when. The only real question is, will you be ready to apply a structured, transparent, and defensible process? Because that is how your judgment and ultimately your professionalism is going to be measured.